Any rate, I have the honor and privilege of introducing a very special person. I count him as a friend, and he has been an inspiration, and he helps me daily, at times, with my walk in progress in Al Anon. And I don't know if you know me, but I'm Carolyn and Grateful Al Anon, and I am blessed by so many people in this room. You've been amazing to me, and I am excited to hear Chad's story.
I'm Chad, Grateful Al-Anon. Linda, thank you for sharing. Wow, I needed to hear your story before I talked. There were so many good things. And I'm also a back row hugger. Me and you have a lot of and then for some reason you said something about your nervous friend, and you looked right at me, so I don't know what that means. So I am her nervous friend. And Jake's sitting on the front row, and Jake is on a rampage this last month, and he's talking about this mental chill pill that you just need to take every once in a while. And I'm trying to think of that mental chill pill of just relaxing right now. So anyways, I talked to my sponsor more times this last week, and had a couple of questions, and especially about talking today. And one of them was about my work, and she said, look, you've got 34 years of your work, a family business, and she said, of course it's part of your story. And so anyways, I may share a little bit about that, and I may kind of explain a little bit about the environment as a family business, kind of where I came from and what it was like. And I worked with both my parents, my mother and father, and for about 25 years. And my wife joined. She's been there probably the last 14 or 15 years. And then my youngest son was also involved in it. Very codependent family. We all lived really close together. We spent a lot of time together. But as codependency, towards the end, it got pretty brutal, and we didn't get along so well, and it had kind of a rough edges on our story. And what happens in my story was my oldest son, with addiction and I'm not here to tell his story, but as that story took off, it put more weight on our relationship, with my mom, my dad, and my wife, and all of us. And we just started spiraling out of control. And I wish I could say it was all their fault. I played a big role in all of that. And if there was a fire, I was good at putting gasoline on it. That's what I did. Situation, let's make it worse. And I didn't know I was doing that at the time. But when my son went down his road, I didn't know what was going on. I lost this kid that was just, we'd go fishing together, and all of a sudden he's living on the streets, and my world's turned upside down, and it's, I thought it was the worst part of my entire life. I thought, man, I'm not gonna, how do you, and I remember going to meetings, and they would talk about gratitude, and I thought, there's nothing to be grateful for, and I wasn't buying it. I wasn't buying the gratitude thing in the beginning, and I sat on the back row. And so anyways, as our family blew up, my father's relationship with me continued to get worse and worse, and we actually had kind of a situation that actually happened on a major street here in Lubbock, and I'm embarrassed to say I actually pulled a gun out, and I didn't point it at anybody, but I carried it around and kind of showed it, and there was a lot of variables involved in this. The police department was called out. My father and I were yelling the F word across with each other. I mean, it was not one of my finest moments. Glad I'm in Al-Anon. I'm glad I'm learning how to act. I'm glad y'all are telling me how to act. And I'm learning a lot. I wouldn't get along with that guy today. And I went and I saw, and I did call this guy this morning. His name was Carl Anderson. And I called him and I said, man, you don't mind if I use you in my talk? And he said, no. He said, don't mind at all. But he said, it better be truthful. And said, those alcoholics, everything's got to be about the truth. So I started seeing Carl, and I don't even know how I started seeing him. Somebody told me that he could help me. And I started seeing Carl. And he spoke a lot of truth. He wasn't one of those guys that just flower. He said it like it was. And I visited with him for a long time, maybe a couple of months, and then finally we had a deal where my mom, my dad, my wife, and all of us came in and we visited with him, and then shortly after that, I met with Carl, after this happened, and Carl looked at me and he said, Chad, he said, I know your son is a big part of your story, but he said, your dad's an alcoholic, and there's a lot of stuff. There's more dynamics going on, and anyways, when you're real naive to what's going on, when you're not educated what's going on, and when you have, I call it denial, just a lot of denial of things that are going on around you, you don't understand them, and so. I got pissed at Carl. I got mad, and how dare him tell me this? My dad and I, we hate each other, but we're going to fix my son. And people are usually right when they see your story, and so it took me a while, and I didn't go see Carl for about 3 months. Hated him, just one of those deals. And so when I walked into the rooms of Al-Anon, I felt the presence of people, this love that was in the room that I had never experienced. And I didn't understand it, but people were nice to me. And, when hurting people hurt others. And I was one of those, I was hurting. And I'd lash out at people, and I even lashed out at some people in Al-Anon, and they still love me. And it was like, wow, they still want me back. And so as it went on, I'll kind of tell you about my relationship with my father, or with the family. And this is a codependency relationship within our family, and some of the dynamics were, I worked with my father for 25 years. I hated my father, couldn't stand him. I mean, and it got even worse. I'm not going to tell you what I wanted to do to him, but what I would do is I'd go to my sister and I would spend hours telling her all these things about my dad, how I couldn't stand him, and then I'd go to my mom, and I would, for a long period of time, every conversation was about how much I couldn't stand my father. And it was always about, I couldn't stand the SOB. And what I did, there was two things that I did. I'd been in recovery long enough to start learning some skills, some coping skills, and some different ways to handle it. And what I did immediately was I quit talking to my sister and my mom about my father immediately. I just quit talking completely. And the biggest thing I also did is every time I was with my father, I would bring up everything that he had ever done, all the wrongs he had done to me, and over and over, and I just immediately stopped that as well. I stopped. I didn't bring up anything from the past, and I just dealt with where we were at, that day. And I did have an interaction with my dad. We were in a meeting, and we had this fight going on with each other. And, it takes two to fight. We'd both grab onto the rope, and he'd pull and I'd pull. And finally, I was kind of taught, sometimes you don't always have to pick up the rope. Sometimes you can just, let it go. You don't have to always win. You don't have to take it personal. You don't have to. I thought, whoa. It took me a long time to figure that out. But anyways, one day I was had this meeting, and our normal fight started. It's kind of one of those. You touch the red button, and the red button and react. And he started hitting that red button pretty hard, and I grabbed a yellow legal pad or whatever, and acted like I was really interested in what he was saying, and I just started writing. And I started writing things like, God help me. God help me through this. God help me not react. God help me love my dad. God help me through this. And I just kept writing, and I kept writing. And I think he thought I was paying attention to him. And it worked. And our relationship, it didn't get better at that point. A codependency relationship sometimes gets worse before it gets better. And it did. It got a lot worse. And I had an awakening when I realized my mom and dad enable, and still do, enable my son. And it's really none of my business. I've been told it's kind of like I got to let go. It's time for me to get alive and move on. And it bothered me, but one day I realized that my mom also enabled me. And that was kind of an awakening of, oh my, and my wife as well, would enable me in some big ways. And so I kind of separated from my mother, so I could and I went to a lot of meetings, and I knew, I love our thing about the turning point. We stood at the turning point. I've stood at a lot of those, and doing something different, that insanity of keep doing the same thing over and over and over. Got to do something different, I was a pretty good victim. It was real easy for me to stand there as a victim and say, look what they did to me. It was harder to say, I got to do something different. And that's what I did. I was leaving. They all knew it. I was going to do something different. I didn't know what it was. Didn't care. When you're at that end of your rope, you're at the end of the rope. When the pain is there, you're going to do anything. And I was willing to do anything, and I went to tech. I didn't know I was going to go to nursing school, go to tech. I didn't, and so I went to tech, and I told my wife, I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to reassign, get in and make it work. And so I enrolled in tech, and I took like 9 hours, and I was making all A's and studying. All I was doing is studying and going to AA and Al-Anon meetings both. Anytime there was a meeting open, I was going. For some reason, I was getting sanity when I was walking in that door. I just felt good for an hour. It's like I'd leave my phone in the car. I just had this sanity of, and I wasn't used to it, and it was like, this is. And so I was at tech one day, and we were pretty far into the semester, and one of the instructors came up to me and said, Chad, you're not enrolled in tech anymore. You're not a student here. And I was like, what do you mean I'm not a student here anymore? And this is my lifeline. I gotta get this degree. I gotta do something different. And she said that I hadn't been answering my emails. You have a tech email and on the blackboard, and I hadn't been answering them, and that I owed some money, and I never paid it. And so they were kicking me out of the tech program. And, it was a big awakening for me, because I couldn't blame my dad. I couldn't blame my mom. I couldn't blame all the people around me. And I had to be responsible. And it was a big eye-opener for me, one of many at the start. And but anyways, I did survive that, and I did get through that, and then my father, he knew I was leaving. My wife, everything was changing. I wasn't reacting to things. I was going to a lot of meetings. I was surrounding myself with good people, and I was trying to behave. I was trying not to react to everything that was going on, and it was hard. It's hard, not doing something, or not reacting, or putting that pause button in between somewhere. And my father asked me if I wanted to buy it, and I said, hell no, I don't want any part of this. And after a while, my wife kind of talked me into it, and we ended up buying it or purchasing it. And as I did that, I thought it was going to be a rosy, hey, this is going to be good, and it wasn't. It wasn't good. It wasn't easy. It wasn't, for me, recovery has been about getting out of my comfort zone in so many ways, doing things. It's like I'm out of my comfort zone right now, When Linda asked me to speak, I wanted to say no. I will tell you that right now. But, getting out of my comfort zone is a good thing. Doing something different is a good thing for me. And so what happened was all these people just started leaving, putting their resignations in and leaving, and one after another. And my sponsor later told me, well, you were kind of the spoiled brat, and I didn't realize at the time, and that's really what it was. And then, and I had worked with some of these people, and there was the last of the last, and there was two people that put their resignations in, and I thought everything my dad said about me is going to be true. I can't do this. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not all of those things. And I thought, well, so much for this God thing, so much for this higher power they keep talking about. I keep trusting, and it seems like it's getting worse. My relationship with my father got worse because I started standing up and not being a people pleaser. I started to say no when I meant no, and yes when I meant yes. And so when you don't follow your role in what you're supposed to do, things don't go well. They get way worse. And on that weekend, it was a Friday. I remember real well. We went to some friend's house, and I remember just being in a state of mind that I had this fight with God, and it was kind of like, God, it got brutal, and it was like USOB, let's have it your way. And it was like, you want me to live on the streets? Do it. You want to bless these people? Do it. Bless them. And I got mad. And what I did was I did nothing. And I just sat back. And I remember those, in that early part, I'd go to at least 5 meetings a day. I mean, it didn't matter if it was an AA, an Al-Anon, it didn't matter. Speaking, it didn't matter. I went. It was like, it's all I had. We're at the end. I'm done, And so, it's funny how when you let go, things just start to work. And that was my real big turning point of maybe this power out there that's bigger than me, maybe there's something to it. Maybe there's something to it. And I wish that was the end of the story of the hard things that came. There were more. And there was one this week as well. And it's hard to trust. It's hard. It's hard to sit back and trust that things are going to be okay. Because sometimes they don't feel like they're going to. And but anyways, then when I was purchasing this, there was a guy in Al-Anon that I got to be really close friends with, and he's just a good guy, just a good heart, good. And as I was buying it, I was talking to him about it. And I said, "Would you help me with this? Because I really trust you." And he said, "Sure, I'll help you with it." And we went through it, and at one point it got really, really bad, with the family. And he said, "Man, I think I need to probably back out of this and not be a part of this." And I said, "Well, if you back out, I'm backing out." I said, "I'm not doing this without someone." And he stuck by my side. And it's funny how God just puts those people in your life. And I'm still grateful for, and I still work with him. And he's a blessing. And I told him I was going to talk about him, and he said it's okay. So, anyways, there's some good people out in the earth. They're just. And as I went to all these meetings, and kept going to meetings and more meetings, and for the first year, I really didn't say a whole lot. I sat in the back, and I just didn't say a whole lot. And then I started getting a little more gutsy, and before you know it, I wanted to run the show after that, for a short period. You get on that high, and I got this, I didn't have it. And I went to the hub one day. There was an old-timer that's there, and she, after I got through talking, she walked up to me and she goes, Chad, she said, you need a sponsor real bad. I had a good resentment on her for a long time. I was like, how dare you tell me I need a sponsor? And she was right. People tell you things that you don't want to hear a lot. And that still happens today. And so anyways, but, I think when I came in, I heard it this week, and I think it's been a powerful part of my week. You kind of get that theme in your head of something, that's there, that theme that just keeps running through. And I heard it in a meeting. I thought, golly. And it was like when bad things happen, don't get on the misery train. Don't stay on the misery train. And before recovery, all I knew was to get on the misery train. I didn't know how to get off the misery train. And it's all I could do was talk about the horrible things that happen. And man, there's been so many blessings from this ride, this road, and man, it's been my father and I. Y'all guys told me to pray for him, and that didn't work out real well for a long time. It's a slow process. But with time, I started going to these particular meeting on a Wednesday night, and all these long timers. I would go to a meeting and I would show up late because I didn't want to talk to y'all, and then I would also leave early so I didn't have to visit with you after the meeting because y'all scared me. It was kind of like I don't want to get intimate with anybody. I want to share. I don't want to, my safe zone is out and in my pickup, and so these ladies would start looking at me, and they would start eyeballing me, and they'd say, they'd give me that eyeball, like, I want a hug afterwards. And it wasn't going to happen. I'm not the hugging type. I don't want a hug, Well, they won. And I started getting those hugs. Pam's one of them. And those hugs feel good. And I'm able to do that with my dad today. And, you want to screw somebody up that hates you and you hate them, go give them a hug. And this last week, I think it was Mother's Day on Sunday, I went to his house, we had dinner, and I gave him a hug, and it wasn't like a 100% hug. It was kind of, and I mean, he just grabbed on and he took care of the 100%. And I mean, that's just that's something we didn't have in our relationship. So it's not, my amends have been more about living amends and acting the part and changing my attitude towards my father. It's been a blessing. And my dad's a blessing in my life. I realize all the good things, the characteristics that he's given me. I didn't know that when I came in here. If you would have told me that, I would have kicked you out of the door. And he's a big risk taker. He's taught me to be a risk taker. And I'm grateful for so many things that he has given me. And he's a good man. And I'm hoping that maybe he'd find it to the rooms of AA one day. And I don't think he's going to. But I'm going to love him where he's at. And I'm proud of my dad. Yeah, my father's a good man, and my mom as well. And I don't throw the gasoline on the fires like I used to, And that's a big change from where I was. Y'all have actually taught me how to act. You've told me, you taught me how to. When my craziness starts, I get my pickup and I leave. I don't keep putting the gasoline on the fire. And we'll tell you, I got to get off that subject. I'm going to get too heavy. I don't like getting heavy. I like to be light. I like to laugh. And that's been a gift in the Al-Anon rooms, is to hear y'all guys laugh. And I love the laughter. And I didn't know how to laugh in any form or fashion. And man, when I hear it in those rooms, I'm just like, man, it's gold. It's like gold to me to hear that. I was at a men's meeting a while back, and there's a guy named Barry. He wouldn't mind me sharing this, and he's an alcoholic as well, and he shared some things that just made sense, and that was, he said, as an alcoholic, he said, people could tell me all day long what my problem was. They tried to change me. They did, and he said none of it worked. And he said when I finally hit rock bottom, he said that's when it changed. That's when everything changed for me, and that's what I do with my son today. And I just love my son where he's at, and his bottom is his bottom, and I just got to love him where he's at today. And it's hard to watch, and there's a lot of times I don't watch it. It's that painful. I have to care about myself enough not to watch it, and not watch the destruction and the pain that comes with that. My relationship with my son is at a distance. I try to reach out to him, and it's his choice not to reach back. I text him or call him, and he won't answer, and I'll just leave him a message. But I'm giving him his space. This program has been a lot about space. I had to have the space from my father. I'm giving my son all the space he needs. He knows I love him, and maybe he'll walk in AA rooms one day. I don't know. But I know that when he does, somebody will reach out and help him. I know this program well enough. I know y'all. I know my God's big enough. And if he doesn't make it, that's part of the story too. I've accepted that as well. Not everybody, makes it to these rooms. And anyways, I don't know, how long am I supposed to talk? By the way, I know it's going to be lunch. So, anyways, I don't know where to go from here. I will tell you one quick story. I was involved with some young kids, three young kids. They were all 19 to 20, and they helped me do a project. And as I was doing this project, we were tearing this wall down. I was in a hurry. I was doing 5 different projects at once, which is the story of what I do. That's why I love Easy Does It. Just slow down, that chill pill that I need to just relax. And trying to do 5 things at once. We were tearing the wall down, got in a hurry, got impatient, went and got a chainsaw, and I cut through the rafters real fast. And it's like, quick, let's do this fast. And there was a sewer line that was going up a big old cast iron pipe, and it broke off at the bottom. It kind of sheared at an angle. And as we pushed the wall over in a hurry, the pipe came through the ceiling and came down, and one of those kids' foot was in the way. And it was right when COVID was starting, and people weren't going into the hospitals and all that good stuff. And I saw the pain on this young kid's face, and he just turned white as a ghost. And he, that when you're hurting so bad you feel like just throwing up. And I tried to hold it together, hold it together the whole time. And I finally got him to a doctor and got out of there. And I went to the park, and I couldn't stop crying. And man, it just hit me more. I didn't realize the pain in watching somebody hurt. And then I was involved in that, was making decisions, and wasn't real safe in that area. And I called. Went to the park. I couldn't stand it any longer. And I called Margie. And Margie said, "Get your butt over here." And I went to her backyard, and I cried, and I cried, and I cried. And man, the love of this program, the people that are in this program that are willing to be there, thank God she answered the phone that day. It's probably one of my worst days. And since then, some good things have happened. I am so safety conscious today. There's no such thing as being in a hurry. I mean, everything is about safety today. And I'm glad that God gives us some redos. We get to, learn lessons, and then we get to continue on and make things, do things differently. One thing I'm getting to do with my wife is that's probably the biggest blessing of my story. My wife and I were walking one day, and we love to walk. That's kind of our thing. I love the danger side of walking. She doesn't. I mean, we go walk, and I want to, go across 19th Street, go into Tech and walk, and she's like, no, that's our only disagreement, in those areas. I'm a risk taker and want to risk and have fun, and she's a play it safe. And as we were walking one day, I said, what was it like? And she knew what I meant before recovery. And I heard last night that one of the speakers spoke and said, hurting people hurt others. I was one of those. And she looked at me and she said, I hated you. And I was so grateful she was sharing that, because she felt safe enough to tell me how she really felt. And that's how our relationship has been. It's been about honesty. It's been about sharing things. And sometimes I don't like that honesty. She gave me a little bit of this week when I wasn't listening to her, and it was all about me, and she let me have it real quick. But that's good. That's what I need. I need that wake-up call. And my wife is just, I didn't know she was such a blessing, and she is a blessing in so many ways. My wife doesn't come to any meetings, but I did talk her into going to the conference in Brady, and with these people up here, and Pam and Chris, and gosh, she had a great time. I mean, just a phenomenal. If y'all don't do, that Brady conference is so powerful. And I caught her the next morning. We went down to the area, the breakfast area, and she really had a connection with the speakers. There were 4 of them, North Carolina, South Carolina, or something like that, and she was giving them all hugs. And man, it's just powerful, this program. She also thought I had a girlfriend in recovery, because when you go to 5 meetings a day and you don't talk to her a whole lot, it's kind of like, what's going on here, and so kind of went through that stage. And today it's a little different. If we go somewhere and we're out of town for a while and I hadn't been to a meeting in a while, she goes, isn't it time for you to go to a meeting? So we've changed a lot. We've evolved in a lot of areas. Anyways, but my youngest son, God, my relationship with him is so good. My hardest thing today is just keeping my mouth shut. I've got all this wisdom that I know he needs. And I just have to keep it inside. It's kind of like I don't have to share everything I know. And so some days I don't do it very very well. My wife and I, we talk about our mistakes in life. We talk about when we mess up, because I used to be a perfectionist. I wouldn't tell anybody any mistakes I've done. And we both share. We laugh. My wife and I, we've made more mistakes with vehicles, backing into things. You wouldn't believe. I don't know if it's part of being 50 in the 50s now, but I just, my wife and I, one day we were listening we never listened to satellite radio ever, never. And for some reason we turned it on, and for some reason this cool song came on, and we pulled into the garage, and the satellite quit. So she put it in reverse. I told her to put it in reverse. And the garage door was coming down, and we took the garage door out, So anyways, and I talked to my youngest son about that, about making those mistakes. And it's so funny when it becomes free, they start talking about their mistakes too. And you're okay with it. It's kind of like, I'm put on earth to be a human, to make mistakes. And I've made more mistakes in recovery. I've made some big mistakes in recovery. And that's where we learn. And I don't beat myself up as bad as I used to. And speaking of mistakes, wow. Service. I became the GR of my home group, and one day we had a group conscience meeting, and I thought you were supposed to control things, being the GR, go in there and line things out, make things work, make it all happen. And I had an agenda before I went in. Scared to tell you all that, but I did, and I walked out of there so crazy, and so many people looking at me like, I mean, it was ugly. And the next one I went to, I realized God has a hand in that group conscience meeting, and I need to let go, and I need to let whatever happen. I need to listen, and I need to be a part of instead of us versus them. And I sat down and I just relaxed and I just listened. And it was so powerful when you actually sit in there, you hear things. There were so many ideas that were better than mine. There was one guy that was just like, I've never even thought of that, and it was like, that is awesome. I mean, like, and then what I really realized by the end of the meeting was that I realized that I was surrounded by so many wonderful people. And these people, golly, I just felt the love in the room after walking out of a meeting. And that's not the kind of feeling I had in my family. When we had a family meeting, it didn't end like that, It's more control, and the louder you were, you may be heard, and it was the opposite, in a group conscience meeting. So, it's like I learned so much in recovery. I've learned just so many things, how to act, and was the GR for a while, and me and Carolyn kind of switched off being the GR, and I'm grateful I stepped up to that area. I've learned so much in that area, and then I became the DR, and during being the DR, there were some times that were so hard, especially in my professional area, that I almost quit. There was so many times that I almost gave up. I almost just threw in the towel and said, I can't do this. And I kept hanging on, and I'm glad I did. Life is not easy. It's not always easy to walk through. And when things got hard, I'm just quicker at letting go. That let go and just let God take a hand in it, a little pause. Not always good at it. It's usually when I'm getting drugged or it gets pretty painful. But am I getting close? I don't know how long I'm supposed to keep. Okay. I'll tell you what it was like before recovery. I didn't think this story had much anything to it, and my men's meeting that we go to with Rick, I told this story one time, and this one guy just laughed so hard about it, and I was like, I didn't think it was that funny, but looking back on it, it was a story of my life. We have a little place down in the Post Spur area, and I was working on a project, doing a lot of things, and the store there was going to, I don't know, Higginbotham or something, was going to close at a certain time. So I get in my pickup, I hook this double axle trailer up, I hook it on, flying down this dirt road, and I'm doing 90 miles an hour just flying, And then I get to the highway, and pedal to the metal. It's kind of like, am I going to make it? Am I going to make it? I'm just pushing it. Wish this pickup would go a little faster, So jump out of the pickup, and I run as fast as I can, and I look behind my pickup, and there's not a trailer. And it's been the story of my life, So anyways, I, every horrible thing goes through your mind about, where that trailer ended up. Did it hit another car? Did it go through a barbed wire fence? Is there cows out in the middle of the road? God, just everything you can think of. And I'm looking on both sides of the road and just, doing 100 going backwards, And I get to, it came off at a cattle crossing. There was a cattle thing, a hump or whatever, and it came off. And there's only really one way out of this area, and there was a car behind there that was I don't know how long that car was sitting there, and it was kind of embarrassing. So I turned around, hooked onto it. I don't remember what I did after that, but I don't remember. But I love the laughter. golly, I didn't know how to do that when I came in here. Everything was heavy, and didn't even know that there was such thing as laughter. And I actually thought it was the worst thing that ever happened to me. And today, I realized that sometimes the biggest problems in your life can be the biggest blessings if you just hang on long enough. The one thing that I did right was I kept coming back. I kept coming back because there was times I didn't feel like coming back. There was times that didn't work real well, and I kind of gave up on recovery, gave up on God, but I kept coming back. It was something about that feeling, sitting in the meeting, that peace that I kept saying, it's there. And the people that I've been surrounded with used to be strangers, and they're people that I love today. They're people that I care about. And I didn't realize I was going to be on a ride like this, with good people. And this morning, I got out of bed and I did my prayer and meditation before I left. And I think God showed up. I'm not as nervous as I normally am. You're a nervous friend. Anyways, for me, it's survival up here. But this last week I had a pretty big crisis that happened, and I woke up and it's like you hear something that's going on, and it's like, and I hate hearing of problems. I hate hearing of those crises, and I used to live in those crises, and now I don't like the crises. I don't want the drama. I don't want it. I want the peace. I want let's don't do anything. And I was running out the door, and I stopped myself, and I knew immediately what to do. I turned back around. I went to my table, and I did my RPMs, my prayer, meditations, and readings. And I sat down, and I read my readings, and I prayed to God, and I said, help me through this day. And it ended up being a good day. The crisis was there, but I handled it in a different way, and we actually had some fun. We had some laughs. I worked with some people, and I wasn't a 2-year-old, and that 2-year-old still shows up every once in a while. And usually I get in my pickup and I leave, if that shows up. But I'm grateful to be here. I've learned so much stuff. Linda, when she asked me to talk, oh my God, I wanted to say no so bad. I was just like, no, please, just change your mind, do something different. I'm glad I'm up here, and I'm grateful for y'all. I'm grateful for this fellowship. I am. I'm grateful that God directed me here with all the pain, because I didn't have ears to hear, nor did I want to hear. And when you're in enough pain, you do hear. You do hear. And I'm grateful, and I wish I would remember that when you get to that pain part. I still don't like pain. I want the smooth road. I don't want the bumps. I want it, all nice. But I'm grateful. Thank y'all for letting me speak today. Thank you for having me. Anyways, that's all I got. Thanks.